finalism, not really finalism, but the livestock revolution that you're talking about. And we know after the FAO report and everybody consuming more meat than they should be. And we're thinking this may be a good thing for pastoralists because now they have the export market, they have better. So with the livestock revolution and all the debate on climate change and carbon emissions and everything else, but then when you look at certain areas like the pastoral landscape, you actually wonder how much is it contributing to this huge carbon emission in the global picture. So it's with that, is it a really good thing for the pastoralists, or should they outsource and export their meat, or consume it locally? Because as it is, they consume so much meat in their diet.
Well, the pastoralists themselves, it's a meat-based diet.
Yeah.
They don't themselves eat so much meat. I think the lifestyle revolution is maybe happening, at different pace in different regions. Mm-hmm. It's already a fact in Middle East, of course, because they're wealthy now. So there's a huge pull from Middle East for livestock from Kenya, from Somalia, Ethiopia. Probably also happening in parts of East Asia, Malaysia, China, I don't know where else. But that's why I brought the example of Nairobi. Mm-hmm. If the average per capita income in Nairobi doesn't go up, why should the meat consumption go up? It's even going down. Yeah. So the lifestyle revolution has maybe started in some sports, and that has a positive effect for exports. Mm-hmm. But on the domestic market, we are still waiting for it. I think it's happened with chicken. Chicken consumption is going up and up. Yes. Right? But it hasn't yet reached the point where the pastoralist feels the effect that somebody in Nairobi wants more meat than before. Hasn't happened. That's why I showed that funny graph. Nairobi is still outside the lifestyle revolution when it comes to sheep and goat and cattle. Yeah? But chicken, yes.
Yeah, but because I think maybe there's been some incentives in terms of the kind of farming you can do with the introduction of fish farms in Kenya, for example.
That's
it
also
went
booming.
A really booming business. Yeah. But in terms of, for the pastoralists,
not yet.
They don't have any incentives to keep on producing and selling it locally, and the markets are far, and the infrastructure.
Well, let's say the incentive is get your sheep across the border to Ethiopia because the price is better. No, it's as simple as that. Okay. If you look at statistics, Kenya doesn't export. Almost nothing.
Almost nothing.
Very small formal export. But if you look at the number of animals that Ethiopia, for example, exports to the Middle East, and then you look at where these animals come from, I think 20%, if not more of them, have got Kenyan names, but they're never featuring anywhere because people just push them across the border. Mm-hmm. If you ask the officials, they say, this is smuggling. They're smuggling livestock. But I mean, that has to do with regulations again and how you organize the whole system. Okay. Even our beef in Nairobi, a lot of it is supplied from Tanzania.
Yes.
We know. And again, it's illegal. They're moving cattle from northern Tanzania into southern Kenya, into Nairobi. But officially, most of that is illegal. Yeah? Mm. If it wasn't working, we would have even less beef in Nairobi than we already do. Yeah? So that's the part where regulation also have an impact. I mean, you can smoothen those systems, make it much more efficient. Mm-hmm. That's what Ethiopians basically did. That's why it's so attractive to sell across border.
Now, with finally, we have China being a big giant right now, and with the new land leases that China is getting in big countries, and I think in northern Kenya, some of the arid land is now going to go to China. And if we have these huge irrigation projects to try and produce from the arid and semi-arid land and stop the pastoralism or try and get them to settle and abandon the pastoral lifestyle, what do you think there is a future for pastoralism? We have a new big key player here.
Yeah, but the areas that such investments are targeting are really the filler pieces of northern Kenya, where you can irrigate, Tana River, for example. Yeah. Which is important for pastoralists, as a dry season grazing, as a watering point. I mean, sure, it could endanger some pastoralists, but not the whole system. Mm-hmm. But why can't we say Kenya being a democracy? If people don't want this kind of investment to happen, then it shouldn't happen. Because whose land is it after all? Which takes us to a very important topic. That's the land tenure system in northern Kenya, which at the moment is a very vague left over from colonial days. It's a joke, yeah? Maybe the Queen is still formally the owner of Northern Kenya because somebody forgot to delete her name in the document. Yeah? So no, that needs a serious update.
Yes.
Who owns land in Northern Kenya and how is it given out? Is it communal? Is it family? Is it whatever? Yeah? Government, leases. It's at the moment it's Northern Kenya is very vague. The legal status of land ownership in many places is not well defined. Yeah? And that could open the door for such huge investment because all they need all of a sudden is just one signature from some bigwig and then it's a legal tenure for let's say 100 years. But the local people, are there. So land tenure system should come before such leases are given out to any foreign investor. So that you say, okay, it's so and so's land. I mean, there's a positive example. But when what's the place called in Kwale, when they started the mining. Now the Canadians had to compensate each and every small shamba that was on the land of that mine.
Yes.
That's okay. And if the Chinese come and want to invest, it should be exactly the same mechanism. Yeah? There's always somebody there. It's not like they're going to the desert where there's nobody. Yeah?
Yes.
There's always somebody living off that land. Yeah? Be it pastoral, agro-pastoral, or farmer. Yeah? So there has to be a clearer definition of the land tenure.
And now, with the work you've done with VSF, do you think, in terms of what we're predicting of future climate changes, they will face probably flooding and some droughts and all this kind of work? Do you think there are tools that we really can make a resilient community out of the pastoralists?
Well, it might get tougher for everybody, but a simple example. If you're a farmer and you've planted maize, and in that area there's no rain for 1 year, 100% failure, you'll be absolutely devastated, destitute. Now, if you are a pastoralist, and in the area where you normally graze your livestock, there is not a drop of rain coming, you won't be there for a whole year. You'll knock at the door of your neighbor, who hopefully is a good neighbor, and you shift. So maybe you lose 10% or 20 or 30% of your livestock, but you'll never lose 100% as long as that migration is still possible. Yeah? So the risk for a farmer is actually higher if things go wrong. The pastoralist system is more flexible. Only that they get hit all the time because they already operate in marginal lands. The farmer sits in prime land and the pastoralist sits in the marginal land. But the flexibility of a pastoral system is enormous. I mean, otherwise, they should have disappeared thousands of years ago. and if we can manage to link them up more efficiently to markets, that's what I was making all the noise in the paper. I mean, if you've lost your livestock and you've got money in the bank, you've sold 200 sheep before the drought, all that money is in the bank. There's nobody, that can stop you from buying those sheep when the rains come back, if you want to restock. Yeah?
Yes.
I mean, that flexibility using financial services, having good access to markets, the flexibility will even increase. It's not just moving around, that's one very important tool, but now you can also store the money away safely and then reinvest it into livestock when things look okay. Yeah? So you can see the whole package should normally allow a sufficient number of people, I'm not saying all, to still make a living, in the long term. Yeah?
So even for the smallholders, if we increase the access to market and have, that was a key, I remember, key part of your talk. We need more markets, we need to have these people being able to sell their products and get something out of that.
Well, for very small producers, the market will help. But maybe not so much, because if your livestock herd is too small, it's very difficult to live off such a small number of animals. But what the market can do for these people, let's say you have only 20 goats, but there's a livestock market within walking distance of your home. And you start a tea shop, for example, and there's a market every week. So you have that extra business. Now, that business plus your 20 sheep maybe allows you to make a decent living. Or maybe you can build up your sheep flock slowly because you've got that extra income. Yeah? So as a complementary kind of strategy, not exactly livestock based, but related to the larger livestock marketing, That will help the small income households. There might be big households, but with small income, or especially here, female-based households.
Okay.
When you go to livestock markets and you look at how many women are there doing all kinds of trade, not just tea shops, selling, even trading in animals, it's amazing. But before the markets were far away, so women couldn't even access it because you can't just abandon their children and walk 50 kilometers every week and then walk 50 kilometers back same week. You can't do that. But when the market is 5K from your house, or even within your village or your settlement, then it's easy. So the distance matters a lot.
Finally, final question. If you were to meet the president of the World Bank and they want to give money to pastoral communities and support different kind of projects, where would you tell them this is where you should put the money?
That's a good question. I mean, if it's big money, and World Bank is big money, not small bits, but a big chunk, I still sing the old song, infrastructure, and then probably education, because the literacy rate is still very high in the north. How do you run a small business when you can't even add up figures on a piece of paper to keep a small record? So infrastructure, education. And infrastructure is not just road, could be more than that. You know, electricity, services, sure. Oh, but let's say even because we talk about livestock, a slaughterhouse put in the right place can change the whole marketing scenario. Instead of waiting for the sheep to die from starvation in the drought, you can store it and you can have it hanging in a cold store, waiting for the Nairobi market to buy that sheep. We're not in such a big hurry. And in North Kenya we have now wind power coming up, Lake Turkana, huge project. We have excellent conditions for solar, but nobody's really invested. Imagine if you had a big slaughterhouse running on solar energy, and all those sheep are hanging in there. They didn't die. Well, they did die. Somebody slaughtered them, but they didn't die because of the drought. So they're beautiful carcasses. They have a good market value, and all that money goes back to northern Kenya. And then you don't need any more relief. The relief is just for the real. They don't say floods. Things do happen. They do go wrong. But it'll be really just a small calamity that you have to support these people, but not like what we get at the moment, where it's basically become a routine almost.